Hey Tekken players, hope you're all doing well. So for this video I'm going to talk about the new options for King in Season 2 for his combo routes. Now just to make this absolutely clear in terms of what this video is going to include and what it's not going to include. I'm not going to include the absolute max damage versions of all these. Now if you want to see what those are, go and check out Armor King TV's YouTube video. It's really good. It will show you the absolute max potential. Now the reason why I'm not going to include it is because basically with King's combo routes, to get the absolute max damage, you have to chain lots of forward threes, sometimes with micro dashes in between, sometimes with micro dashes and jabs, and it's super technical, which if you like that sort of thing, that's fantastic. However, for me, when I'm playing 99.9% of my gameplay is online, and especially with crossplay, where there seems to be some sort of weird sort of input errors and stuff with where you go from PC to console, it's just not reliable enough, in my opinion, to bother. That, you know, now you'll see the likes of Jess Andy and Dr. the Jake Man, who are both not only King mains but also have godlike execution, and sometimes it just makes me cry because you'll see them in an online tournament. They'll try to go for these links and they drop it so many times. I just think, I just don't do it. It's just not worth it. It's so sort of like technical in terms of getting those tiny dashes in and stuff that in the online world it's just not worth it. And I think there's a very sort of good reason why you'll almost never see the John go for these kind of things. He'll just stick it to the sort of more less hits but more reliable stuff. So it's just to get that out there. The other thing just to mention is I can't include all the sort of the all the notations because the software I used to use it doesn't work anymore, but I'll keep my inputs up on the screen and I'll try to sort of mention in terms of what the moves are. But I think if you're playing King at this level, then you probably should know most of the attacks without me having to spell them out. And also just to say that what I'm trying to explain in this video is the nuances of what a combo guide can't tell you. So for example, like a combo guide will say, it'll give you a series of button layouts and say do this, but what the combo guide can't tell you is in what circumstances is something best, why sometimes it's not worth it, and the little details that you need a human being to tell you. Okay, so just wanted to get that all out of the way, so let's start the video. Okay, so just to make it very clear in terms of why we need to even have some new combo routes post, Season 2. It's because now King has access to 2 strong aerial tailspins that he didn't have before. So that's Jaguar Step 3, that gives 1, and up forward 3 plus 4 into 2. That gives you another. And basically, once you have strong aerial tailspins in your arsenal, your combos can both be longer and give more damage. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's start with a really basic sort of B&B you'd never drop in Season 1 from Full Crouch Downfall 2. So something like this. Very basic stuff, right? And that gives you 72. Now let's look at something equivalent now in Season 2. Again, something pretty basic that you should almost never drop. Okay, so that's pretty simple, and that gives you 79. So straight away you can see why it's worth learning these extra routes, because they are going to give you more damage, and as I'll show later, they're going to give more wall travel. Now, the next thing to mention is in terms of which one you should use in terms of the aerial tailspin. It kind of depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get damage and ease of use, and you don't mind sacrificing wall travel, then you want to use this one. However, if you want to get more wall travel, then you want to use this one. So that's kind of like the long and short of it in terms of which one you should do. So I'll cover sort of both options to give you an idea. So that combo I did just a moment ago in terms of if you just want to cash out on some damage and keep it really easy, that uses this aerial tailspin, and the pickup is slightly different for Full Crouch Downfall 2 because you've got enough time to basically pick up with 3-2 as your pickup. Now you might want to, it's up to you, you might want to dash in a little bit because I find sometimes it's it's just a bit more reliable if you do a little dash first like that for the next stage. But basically all you have to do is pick up that, and then your standard, you know, king combo shenanigans into your Jaguar step 3 for your strong air tailspin, and then just a giant swing ender, right? And you should almost know a drop that. If you need a bit of practice to sort of get the timing, practice doing this hop kick into Shining Wizard. But, you know, as a king main, you should kind of have that down, you know? Even though, as I just demonstrated, even king mains drop it. Where am I going wrong? That's strange. Always worth keeping your notations though, because look, I'm looking at my giant swing input. It is all technically correct. I think it's just too late on the final frame. There we go. So it is worth, you know, worth having your command history because you can see where you're going wrong. Anyway, long story short, that's how you sort of go for something pretty easy. But you're not going to get any sort of you're not going to get any wall carry or anything like that. Now, if you want to up this a bit, after the Jaguar step 3, rather than going for giant swing, you can of course go for Shining Wizard. Now, just to kind of like explain roughly, because a lot of people ask me this, so I'm going to give a very quick overview, because a lot of people ask me, how do you get Blue Spark Shining Wizard, or how do I do a Shining Wizard as fast as possible? Well, basically, these are the rules of how it works. You have to have 1, 2, 3 forwards, like that, then forward 3 plus 4. Okay, so that's kind of like the absolute basics. However, to get it to sort of be as fast as possible, when you go 1, 2, 3, this, those final, the final sort of forwards. And the move itself, they have to be completed within 6 frames. So that kind of gives you an idea of how fast you need to be. But it's only the final bit. So this first bit you can leave quite a big gap before going 1, 2 like this. So just bear that in mind. And also the thing that most people get wrong is, especially myself, is try and do it too fast. You get that. You see how I've got 3 forwards, but I've done 3 plus 4, sorry, 2 plus 4 on the final forward, and I need to have 3 of them in there. Do you see what I mean? So basically, I'm pressing this too early. You need to give it a little bit longer. Again, the way to practice this is just do it like that. So if you look at my command history there, you can see I've got 1, 2, 3 forwards. Okay, then then my final input, and if you notice, the final bits, it's basically 2, 4, 6. So I just made that within the gap. So don't worry too much about it. I'm just getting it out there in terms of explaining the absolute sort of basic mechanics of it, because lots of people ask me. So that's the rules in a nutshell. You've got to get 1, 2, 3 forwards, then 3 plus 4, and the final bit of the command has to be done within 6 frames. So it's the final bit that makes all the difference. Okay, so just making it very clear. Now, in terms of what this means during that combo, it's taken me quite a while to get the hang of it, and I'm still not there, because for me it's the timing. You have to do this, and then it's quite a long input before you can then do the Shining Wizard, and it's just taken me a while to basically get the hang of it, because I'm used to sort of doing, my muscle memory is to do Shining Wizards after like 1 jabs or 2 jabs, where it's a lot tighter. And it sounds odd because actually, if anything, that's harder, but again, it's just what I'm used to practicing. So I'll probably have to do some edits to sort of not make this video too long, but I'll give you a full disclaimer of how many attempts this takes me. Okay, so I got it on that. It took me literally 3 attempts, so that's pretty good for me. But like I said, it's just the timing. And again, notice my input to the end. If you look at the final sort of inputs, there's a 2-frame gap between the final 2. So again, it comes to less than 6 is the long and short of it. And that gives you some pretty chunky damage. The hardest bit, like I said, is just getting the timing of this. You have to delay it, I find, much more than you think. If you try to rush it, it won't come out. So you have to, you really have to sort of delay that final bit. and that gives you, say, some pretty chunky damage. Now, let's talk about if we want to get wall travel, rather than just sort of cashing out. So if you want to do that, the route I suggest is do the standard pickup that you used to do in season 2. It's just then what you do is you do 2 jab into 3+4, and that gives you your strong ale tailspin. So that's something like this. Okay, and the cool thing is even after that, you can still do 1 jab, and you have time to do 1 jab into a Shining Wizard. So again, let's see how many attempts this takes me to do. Okay, so that gives you 82 and a bit more wall carry, but I'm not gonna lie, that is hard to do, because, you know, in theory it's way harder to do jab into Shining Wizard than it is to do this. But again, I'm just used to it for muscle memory. But to be honest, I would not use that. I don't think I'd ever use that combo route unless I was just trying to show off, because if I wanted more damage, I'd go for the other tailspin. Where this combo is good is for wall carry, and as you can see, like, you know, if you want to sort of maximize the wall carry that with this one, you're going to do something like this. And that gives loads of wall carry compared to the using this tailspin. So that's kind of it in a nutshell for full crouch down fall 2. Now, obviously, I've not included heat for either of these. So just to make you aware, if you want to use a heat burst, then the time to do it, if you're going for this option, is straight after. There's no space for a jab, so you do something like this. Oops. So again, you see that gives you your heat burst, and you can't jab or anything. Whereas you go for this one, you can get a 1 jab in. And that really maximizes the wall carry potential, one including heat. And I have labbed this. It works on Ling and Reina, so it does work on small-bodied characters. So again, that's kind of it in terms of the full crouch down for 2 options. Let me just go to the real world stage just to kind of show you what I mean in terms of this wall carry potential. You see what I mean? Like, this is a big stage and we can't do wall to wall on it, but that was pretty close. Whereas if you're going for something like this, I did that deliberately, I promise. But you see what I mean? We just don't get as far. Okay, so I think that's a good summary in terms of the general options. So I would stick it to that. In short, if you want to go for damage, go for this. If you want to go for wall carry, use this method. And you'll just have to decide like where you are on the stage, to go for that. So that's the full crouch down for 2 covered. Now Hopkick is basically the same. There's a slight new nuance in the pickup. So again, if you want to sort of go for, really sort of baby easy mode, I would suggest basically doing Hopkick. I would then suggest doing forward 1+4 as your pickup. The reason why is because you don't need to do any micro dashes, and it gives the same damage as this. So this is 27. This is 27, and you don't knock them as far away, so I find it just a little bit more reliable. So again, if we're just doing our first easy mode, something like this. $67 damage, pretty juicy, and again, you'll almost never drop that. And let's compare that to this. So same damage. but we're not using any tailspins or anything like that. So where Hopkick is a little bit more nuanced in terms of if you want to sort of, you know, maximize the potential damage, what you need to do is your first 3 hits need to be, well, so your first 2 hits need to be this, and then you need to dash forward into a forward 3. Now I think this is worth it in terms of this option, despite the fact what I said at the beginning about sort of doing dash into 3, because it really ups the game in terms of the damage. Gives us 69. Nice. You know, and again, it's only that first bit that's a bit tricky. You see what I mean? But it's worth it, I think, in terms of going for that. And again, once you sort of get your head around that sort of pickup, you can see the options are the same. So basically, after the pickup, after this, you can then do either, as you saw, back 1 2 into this. Now, full disclaimer, if you want to absolutely maximize the wall carry, what you need to do for this combo route is after this, you can then get in 1 2 jab into the tornado flip. However, it's really not consistent, and I won't edit out my attempts here to kind of show you, but it's something like this. Now, typically that worked first time, but when I was trying a moment ago, I kept getting drops. So it's not as consistent. You've got to make sure you get all your inputs in as quickly as possible. See, that time it didn't work. So but that's how you really maximize the wall carry going down that route. However, what I'd probably do, just to make it a bit more reliable, is go back to the original full crouch down forward 2 combo route, where we just put in a single jab rather than 2 and do something like this. I find that is just a little bit more sort of consistent, but just so I've sort of explained the different options, just so you're aware. So again, just to reiterate, if you want to cash out on damage, do something like this. Into whatever. And if you want to do a consistent wall carry, go for something like this. So again, that's kind of your two philosophies on the approaches. Now those are King's main launchers, to be honest, because you should use both of those they both work as 15 frame punishment, both standing and while standing, even though you're technically crouching, but you get the idea. And also they're the closest thing, well, one of the closest things King has to panic moves, because this crushes lows, this crushes highs. So, but just so we covered everything in terms of other launchers, I'm not going to go over all of them. All I would say, if you land a capital punishment, it's still the same. You just want to pick up with, you've got enough time to pick up with down forward 2-1. So again, something like that. So that's kind of the same combo. And similar to this, the pickup for this is you still kind of have to pick up with this, annoyingly. Just doesn't work. So if you're not aware, for males you can get away with a forward 3 like this. Into whatever. Females, however, that won't work. You have to do a 2 jab. So you have to do something like this. into whatever. But yeah, so if you try to do a forward 3, it will whiff more times than it works. So yeah, that's more or less it. Again, without going into too much detail in terms of covering everything, but just so I've mentioned it. So actually, just put heat on. Just in terms of what you can land after this, I really like this. Just because, you know, I was trying to reach the other wall there, but I was too far away. But I like that route because it looks flashy. Oops. It looks flashy. And to be honest, although it looks flashy, it's not that hard. You don't have to learn Instant Shining Wizards or anything like that. However, as sort of a more damaging approach is you have to do something more like this. Oops. Ah, damn. But you get the idea. When you get to the end, you just do what you want. There, something like that. I tried to do a Shining Wizard, but like I said, the timing's not good. But yeah, go for that. That pickup is, you know, it's pretty reliable. So you pick up with back to 4. Yeah, but like I said, at that point, the strong tailspins don't really make much difference. The point is after you've done the screw, you kind of want to do this just to give you an extra hit. So that's more or less it in terms of what I wanted to cover. Just trying to think if there's any sort of nuances that I might want to include. I don't think so. I think the best bet, whether you want to go for this or go for this, I think just practice and see what you find easier. But my general guide stands in that, you know, one is better for wall carry, one is better for damage. And I would suggest just practice doing this into Shining Wizard, because like I said, the timing I just find a little bit off. You see how like something like that I can do because I'm just used to it in muscle memory, because I sort of just know how it works, whereas this, it just feels so strange in terms of like knowing when to do the Shining Wizard. But that comes with practice. But I suggest more often than not, what most of us are going to end up doing is we're probably going to end up doing this, to be completely honest. As in, we're going to spike after that tailspin anyway, with heat, because we want to unlock, you know, we want to unlock final boss form King and all his nice new homing throws that he has. So, you know, we want to unlock heat as fast as possible. So don't worry too much about it in terms of this into Shining Wizards and all the rest of it, because 9 times out of 10 you're probably just going to do a heat spike anyway. So I hope that helps everyone. Any questions, let me know. I may or may not do a bit more of a detailed guide where I include some sort of, you know, annotation stuff about how to get these blue sparks to be consistent. But hopefully I've outlined the general rule. It's in effect, if you need to do nothing else, it's making sure you've got your 3 inputs before, your 3 forwards before you then do the final forward 2+4, and it's that final bit that has to be lightning fast to get it to work. But it's more of a rhythm than it is just trying to mash it out. Anyway, hope it's helped everyone, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.